Haphazard?
Yeah. Wax, and he just comes
And we are go.
Lex does it for fun. He just like goes out and out.
He gloves?
Just a gigantic slash. Other stuff.
Should have done this backwards. I don't think as much. Shaved ice is actual ice.
Shut up.
Okay. Since I am probably running late, I'll go ahead and get started. For those who haven't met me, my name is Jason Merrill. I run a company called Blackbird Finery, where I sell antique and vintage gentlemen's accessories. And in doing research for those, I stumbled across drugstore and pharmaceutical trade publications from the late 1800s to the early 20th century. And a lot of these would have a column on how to run your soda fountain. And they would have all kinds of information on the supplies you need, how to advertise your stuff, how to decorate for certain seasons, and then the formulas for both drinks and sundaes and stuff like that, sent in by local pharmacists saying, hey, this works for me, I make a killing at this in the summer. You know, if you use these high-end ingredients, it's a 15-cent drink, otherwise you'd sell it for 10. And I was immediately fascinated, but then I started seeing some of the actual formulas, and they were amazing. So, you know, the fingerprint in the glove is I keep forgetting that.
I have that problem.
Turn this off for the moment. Set the phone on Do Not Disturb, which will probably not work, knowing me, but I'll try. Ice I will not be using. I stepped on it. So the first one, and actually I don't know how new these are to other folks, but the first one is Foxy Grandpa. And I think you might be the one who figured out that it was a newspaper strip from the early 1900s. And, you know, I saw the name Foxy Grandpa, and it's like, well, that's kind of cute. What is it? And it's shaved ice, grape juice, orange syrup, lemon juice, Jamaica ginger, and then carbonated water. Now, in the early 1900s, Jamaica ginger was just a, let's see, I need to shake it. So, Jamaica ginger was a medicinal tonic, and it had ginger and alcohol. Come Prohibition, they started replacing the alcohol with other forms of alcohol that were poisonous. One particular company was the cause of an epidemic of paralysis. It caused a condition called Jake leg. And if you look, there are songs like Jake Leg Blues, things like that. It caused people to walk in a weird gait where they had to lift their foot up first and then put their toes down before they could walk. Instead of our normal heel first, it was a toe first pattern. And the executives behind that company were finally caught. The problem is at the time the government was also poisoning the alcohol supplies because they didn't want people drinking it. But they finally caught the guys and they paid maybe a $3,000 fine and maybe did a couple of months in jail and that was it. They did a follow-up study in the 1970s. And the people that were still alive still had major neurological problems from drinking the tainted Jamaica ginger. This is more modern stuff that is nowhere near tainted, has no alcohol, no blood, so it's all easy. But you will find a lot of Jamaica ginger bottles still around from Prohibition, not necessarily from that one company, but the entire tonic, that brand got tainted. Nobody wanted Jake anymore. The nickname for it was Jake. Because they heard it was bad, but it was only this one company's thing. So, in any case, Foxy Grandpa was a newspaper strip in the early 1900s, and it actually, they published a couple of books, and those are available online through like archive.org. There were some silent film shorts starring Foxy Grandpa, and I've seen stills. I've not been able to track down an actual short. They may not even exist anymore. Flammable film stock, people didn't think they were worth anything, the usual suspects. So, starts with 2/3 a glass of chili ice, 1.5 ounces grape juice. I like using these little dosing cups because they're pretty quick and easy. And I put my grape juice down here to get it slightly chilled. Ooh. It's not carbonated. I don't know why it did that. So these are 2 tablespoons, 1 ounce. I don't know the other measure, but just do 1. One ounce orange syrup. I'm glad I found this because I thought I was going to have to order more at the last minute. But I will have to order more before I do more with this. So the orange syrup, a dash of lemon juice.
Is it in the back behind you?
Oh, correct. You are correct, because I just bought it at the store. That's my ice cream and cream and some other stuff. Probably a little more than a dash, but it works. And then a dash of this, and this does not have a nifty small diffuser or whatever, a limiter.
Shaker
in the
top,
lid.
yeah.
It is just wide open, so some of these get a little more gingery than others. But that's what you want, right? So I'm just going to stir it up like this. Because then I'm going to top it off with the carbonated water. So these soda arms in the actual pharmacies and drugstores and diners and lunch counters could dispense the soda water, the seltzer, at different speeds. If you pulled it forward, it was just a coarse stream, which would just be that. If you pushed it back, you got a fine stream like that. And they would use the fine stream to mix up the drinks. And it depends on, you know, how big your thumb is. And then, of course, there is the question of the dismount. Often when I'm turning the bottle over, I'll shoot a spray. I really try to avoid that because this is a rented facility. You know, don't want them getting mad at me. But
It's pretty.
actually over orange it to take a taste. Good as always. For some reason, this one is not as gingery. I'm getting a lot more orange with this one. I don't know why.
There's orange, there's orange.
It could be anything.
It's a good orange, so I'm not going to complain. So this is your Foxy Grandpa. Duh. Forgetting the most important part that I always forget. The garnish. So this one was supposed to be garnished with a slice of pineapple and a cherry. So juice. Because I don't have the proper glassware and I'm not doing this in the proper environment, I often don't do the garnishes. But I saw the can and it's like, okay. But what we need here is some cherry. Get one of these quick. Ice bath. And then drop it in the center of the pineapple slice. There we go. That's your Foxy Grandpa.
Do you have any idea when straws would have been introduced for drinking?
Always.
Really?
As long as there were-
metal or?
No, as long as there were the drugstore pharmacies, they were using straws.
What were
And
they
cleanliness was very important. Paper. They had paper, they had, actually most of the ads I've seen for those were paper.
Okay.
And they were very, very, very concerned with cleanliness. And so straws and napkins and things like that were a big part of it. And they had a lot of early methods of dispensing the straws that are a lot like what we have now. But a lot of them were the tall glass jar with the lid that was attached to a little floor. So you'd lift the lid and it would pull the straws up so you could just pluck one.
I have one of those.
But they also had, paper wrapped straws. They just weren't plastic because plastic was around, but it was more things like Bakelite, and vulcanite and stuff that was not really suitable for drinking.
Right.
Like this glove is not suitable for me using.
Putting gloves on wet hands is miserable.
Well, I thought I had dried them enough, but they're just sticky. So, take two. Because once again, I'm trying to be conscious about safety. I do have my handouts over there, and there's a QR code on the next to last page that leads to a folder full of all of my presentations as PDFs. So if you want to see what else I've done, if you want to see some of these, because some of these are repeats, just with different names, because this is Beyond the Veil, this is Foxy Grandpa's Ghost. This will work for now. long as I don't try to use my fingerprint again. So, any questions at this point? Comments, concerns? Criticisms? Well, thank you. Okay. I'll let them all pick that. So let's see. So the next one. Okay, so I will need another spoon. Because oh, they're down here. So the next one was originally called Man Friday. I have this Man Friday's shadow. And it's an unusual one because it requires in there. It's ice cream. 1 scoop vanilla ice cream, 2/3 glass carbonated water, 1.5 ounce Coca-Cola syrup, 1/4 ounce wild cherry syrup. So you'd think it would be just a cherry Coke float.
I was gonna say that's what it sounds like.
No. No. It's very surprising. It doesn't taste like you think it would taste. And to me, that's one of the things I like about it. So, just a nice simple vanilla bean ice cream. So it calls for, it says 1 measure of ice cream, a 16 to the quart scoop. And you'll see scoops like this by number. And a 16 meant 16 of these scoops would make 1 quart. So you'll see them, particularly the older ones, with a number on them. That'll be a number 16, a number 12, whatever. That's what that meant. So you can either think of it as it's 1/16 of a quart, or it takes 16 of those to make a quart. And your modern scoops are pretty close to that 16. So, 1 scoop. As much of that as possible. This back in with my ice. So, put ice cream and carbonated water in a 10-ounce glass, stir with a spoon until the cream is melted and has a nice foam. Another one that's cold. Your carbonated water is supposed to be as absolutely cold as possible. The water lines running to the carbonation device would have either been packed in ice or, after it was available, run through a refrigeration system to keep it as ice cold as possible. Not that much, I think. Rough it up a little. But if you noticed, it already had an ice. Just from the carbonated water hitting the ice cream, it gave some pretty good foam. Really? That's what I forgot. Plastic tablecloth. It's the hotel's problem.
I'm sure they've dealt with worse.
So, 1.5 ounces of Coca-Cola syrup. And what I'm using is this Amaretti Cola syrup, which is used for cocktails and flavoring drinks and what
We
have
have
you.
that at my work.
You can still buy Coca-Cola syrup as syrup, but more often than not, places want to sell you the box for the bag-in-box systems. And I didn't think it was worth getting an entire box and trying to figure out a way to draw off an ounce at a time.
Yeah.
So,
Question.
sure.
Would it be possible to like compute like how much Coca-Cola is that much syrup and water and then just substitute in only Coca-Cola?
I could. I mean, the only difference is I would back off on the amount of carbonated water that goes into this, because that's the only extra added to the syrup. But I like this particular syrup.
It's almost like molasses. One of my coworkers dropped a bottle of that behind the bar.
Oh no.
How long did it take? I don't think we've gotten it cleaned all the way up yet.
Still
I mean, luckily this is plastic.
So it's something.
Yeah.
I try to use as many
It wasn't
plastic.
plastic bottle, but
Plastic bottles are important.
it was a plastic bottle, but it hit the ground in such a way.
Oh, did it just? Yep. Yep. So I'm using this Ferrari Amaretto. Is it, wait. Amarina Fabric cherries. And what I like is not the cherries, but the, make sure I know how much I'm putting in. It says just 1/4. But that's a nice, thick, dark syrup as well. I'm actually going to
Try to like rinse it out a little bit.
Yeah. get as much as possible in here out of the measuring cup. That's thick syrup. But it says add the syrups, fill with fine stream, which will give a dark drink with a white foam. So, there we go. Probably, but it'll work. She's always stopping at the right time.
Nice.
Goes way over. Because the syrups are so thin. What you get is, well, it looks like a chocolate drink. It does not taste like a chocolate drink. That's what's so kind of neat about this, is it's very deceptive in both appearance and taste. It doesn't taste like you think it would. It doesn't look like you think it would. But it's very good. I'm not gonna. That's a bit much. Probably use a smaller glass. Just take Yeah. There's enough cinnamon in the cola syrup to give it that cinnamon kick, but then you get that wild cherry. And it's just, like I said, it's not anything that you would expect. It's not a cherry Coke. It's not, definitely not a chocolate or coffee drink. So that's the Man Fridays Shadow. Any other questions?
Has the consistency also that big all the way down, or is it just the top?
Well, I mean, the foam is its own consistency, but the rest of the drink is, yeah, it's a fairly thick because of those syrups.
Okay.
I mean, the carbonated water thins it out a bit, but not as much as you would think. The ice cream makes it the thick, really. Let's see. Oh, that's right, another one that doesn't need a shaker. why I brought all these. This one's, it is the spirit of Queen Bess. And in this case, it wants 1 ounce of Cola Cocoa syrup, which was a competing brand. It had the same sort of stuff in it, but it used, cola nut, or actually cola leaf and coca leaf extracts. Or actually maybe cola nut. They used both, but I just have the name. In that case, instead of using the Amaretti, I'll use this Mexican Coke because it has the full sugar that it's supposed to have.
Mm-hmm.
None of that artificial stuff. We need the corn for other things. So because it's an ounce of syrup, this has water in it. Double it up just a tad. I'm not going to do this because that's pointless. So it's 1 ounce of that, 1.5 ounces of strawberry syrup. There it go. Whoop.
There goes.
1.5.
Mm-hmm.
And
Jason, they make these things, they're called jiggers. They have like units of
I know.
measurement on them.
well, this one does too. It's just trying to get the halfway mark. So 3 ounces of shaved ice. And I'm almost out of shaved ice. And then you fill the rest of the glass, approximately 5 ounces, with ginger ale. And I like the Schweppes once again because it comes in, as my wife says, cheeky little glass bottles. And that's it. That's the Queen Bess. I mean, that was literally all of the instructions. Was 1 ounce cola cocoa syrup, 1.5 ounces strawberry syrup, 3 ounces shaved ice, 5 ounces ginger ale, enough to fill glass. No nonsense. In, out, get the job done. Some of the descriptions are really long and involved. And the interesting thing about these old magazines was they just entered the recipes verbatim from the letter that they were, sent in from. So they were completely inconsistent in the lists of ingredients. Is it amount or ingredient? Then it's ingredient and amount. Some of them, it's literally a paragraph that says, here's how you make it. You take an ounce of this, an ounce of that, whatever. So I've had to format them a bit for this, but I tried to leave the instructions intact so you can see just how different everybody was making their drinks and talking about their drinks. Okay. So you do taste the strawberry in this one. But you normally do too. But what I like about it is it's not just, say, a Coca-Cola with a shot of strawberry syrup. You've got the ginger ale added to it, and that makes for something that's pretty interesting. But I like it. So, any questions at this point? I've only got 2 more, so I don't want to hurry and run ourselves out of time. But if people have questions, or comments, or yes, ma'am?
Not a question, but I could tell you about one of the mocktails that my boss came up with for our menu because he wanted to harken back to the old days of the soda jerks. And we call it the soda jerk. And he starts with the cola syrup.
Mm-hmm.
So it's have to go from my head from going pumps to things. So about a half ounce of that, and then a half ounce of cherry syrup with a quarter ounce of blueberry and a quarter ounce of strawberry. And we put it in the bottom of the glass, top it with ice, take the bar spoon, and then we just strain the club soda in and stir until we get a nice foamy head on top of it.
Nice.
And it's one of our biggest sellers.
Nice. Sounds good.
And I always think of you every time I make it.
Well, but y'all should have talked to me and had me come up with something.
I come up with it. And I can't talk to you because you don't.
Because the issues with using club soda depends on the brand, because they've got added minerals.
Yeah.
So it's either going to taste a little bit like baking soda, or whatever else they have in there, a little salty.
We're a bar that's trying to buy. We're a bar that buys White Rock because it's what our rep sells us for the best
Oh, exactly,
price.
exactly. But I mean, that's why I use this particular brand of seltzer. It is just carbonated water, no flavors, no added minerals or salts or anything like that.
So that's your question. What is the actual difference between seltzer and club soda and
So-
sparkling water? What's the difference?
What is the difference?
Well, sparkling water and seltzer is pretty much the same. It's water that's been carbonated. It's just depending on the source of the water. So if you're getting your Perrier's, your Rollsteiner, your Apollinaris, it depends on the springs that water comes from as to the mineral content that may be in those waters. Those were the original health drinks. People would go to those spa areas to take the waters for their health. They would bathe in those carbonated springs, but they would also bottle that water and sell it.
Hopefully not the same ones that they were bathing in.
Correct. No, those were entirely separate springs. But but it's that's the your sparkling water is just carbonated via the natural method from that spring, or at least it's supposed to be. Seltzer like this is artificially carbonated. It's water that's impregnated with carbon dioxide, and now it's they use bottled gas, the CO2 gas, to force through the water to carbonate. The original versions of carbonating, Jacob Priestley originally was passing water from glass to glass over fermenting beer to catch the bubbles in the air that was coming out. From there, he moved to, and I wish I knew the process via which he swapped from one to the other, but he was pouring hydrochloric acid over chipped marble to generate the carbon dioxide gas. And that was the industrial process for a very long time, before we ended up with the modern bottled gas. And in some of the early soda fountains, you would have some poor kid in the basement having to deal with acid and chipped marble to generate the carbonated water. Now, later on they had fully sealed devices that would do that, but you would have to replenish your marble chips, your acid, things like that. Did that answer your?
Yeah, I'm glad I asked.
Okay, cool. Yes. Oh, I've got trivia for you if you want.
Give us her name.
Y'all know about the United States of America versus 40 barrels of Coca-Cola, right? It always comes up in cases where either the plaintiff or the defendant is an inanimate object. But basically, after the government was going to outlaw
Don't mind the robot. And quite a clip.
yeah. What's funny is I don't see Steve now.
Yeah.
I don't see Stephen Chapman who drives it. Normally he's behind it. So it's like, is that thing off on its own?
The Iron Scout has gone rogue.
I expect to see it coming back the other way and Stephen chasing it. But when they knew the government was going to outlaw the sale of cocaine over the counter and as a available ingredient, they have there's actually still, it's the same company that washes the cocaine out of the coca leaf, and the company gets the coca leaf with which to flavor their end product. They just don't get the cocaine anymore. But to replace the cocaine, they added near lethal amounts of caffeine to the soda. That was what was in those 40 barrels. And the government basically took them to court over the amount of caffeine they had in their product. And at that point, it actually went through the courts for a while before Coca-Cola finally settled to put it out of the way. And they did lower the amount of caffeine. It's still nowhere near what it had been, but it's also nowhere near the levels of stimulant that the cocaine had that they were replacing. So it's just not the same. Well, right. Whenever I tell people that I'm making sodas based on the old formulas, the inevitable question is, does it have cocaine in it? And I say, no. Because most of them, they were never adding like a vial of cocaine directly into the formula. What they were doing was they were using the coca leaf extracts to flavor. And it was the extracts that had the cocaine in it. And that's when they started washing it out. Now the cocaine that gets washed out is now sent for scientific and research purposes. So that company is making money on both sides of the table by washing it out and then selling it.
Scientifically speaking.
But is that kind of like how can we sell the skunky part of weed?
Yeah.
Kind of.
Just the skunky part.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Like,
So,
like you don't want to see.
so next is it's originally the American Girl, I call it the American Girl apparition.
Nice.
So, and I'll read you the full description. It says 1 ounce chocolate syrup, 1/2 ounce coffee syrup, 1/2 ounce vanilla syrup, 1 ounce of cream, fill glass with plain soda using fine strain moderately. This makes a sweet drink and one containing the syrups most popular with young girls, hence its name.
I feel cold now.
And there was an
Well, I'm a
article
girl then, 'cause I
about,
like it.
That is not wrong.
so I use heavy whipping cream for the cream. It varies. It just says cream, it says sweet cream, it says, this is the closest modern equivalent. And I did new syrup, plastic top that I always forget to remove. I'm always running late, so I never get the chance to pre-open things, loosen the tight lids. Ooh, it's messy. Well, it says an ounce. So this stuff is so thick that if I put in an ounce of this, I'm getting 1/3 of an ounce actually in that. So I'm going to leave the lid off and I
Trust you. Oh. Yeah.
That seems like a moderate amount.
Got an ounce?
Sure. The bartender says probably.
Yeah.
We'll stick with that then.
It's like tamarind paste.
And I like using a chocolate sauce instead of a syrup because it's thicker. And to me, it's often not as sweet. And of course, I prefer dark chocolate. Say the Torani and the Monin chocolate syrups are awfully sweet and they're really thin. And to me, they just don't make as good of a drink. Personal taste. But my word is law. So
We will never make these drinks except for the way he has told us to do.
That's
so.
right, yes, exactly.
feel free
It's
to
an abomination.
experiment, adulterate, invent, invigorate, whatever.
Pumpkin.
Whatever you want to do to these, they're your drinks. Make them the way you want to make them. Make them what tastes good to you.
And what is that one?
Coffee?
Yes. And I'm just using a cold brew for the coffee syrup. The way they would make their coffee syrups is exactly the same way they would make their drink syrups and their flavored fruit syrups, which is you take the essence and add it to simple syrup, which mostly meant you were boiling down the essence along with like 5 pounds of sugar and water. And you would boil all that down until it became a syrup. They would do that with the coffee. They would often brew the coffee into a giant pot that was full of sugar. And they would, add boiling water and just drain the grounds until they were out. And then mix that until it became a nice thick syrup. So when you wanted a cup of coffee at the diner, they would pour the syrup into a glass, get the hot water out of their hot water tap, stir it up a bit, and then present that to you with some sugar cubes. You can add the sugar to your taste, forgetting the fact that it's already sweet enough to blow the top of your head. So when they talk about making drinks with coffee syrup, you've already got the incredibly sweet chocolate syrup, the incredibly sweet coffee syrup, and then the incredibly sweet vanilla syrup. So I tend to use just, the coffees. And these modern syrups have nowhere near the amount of sugar in them that the old ones did. The other interesting thing about the coffees is that it often called for a blend of Mocha Java coffee. Java is the island Java, so that meant coffee from that island. Mocha is a port in Yemen where the coffee was shipped out of. So they refer to that coffee as mocha. That particular strain of coffees has a chocolatey flavor to it. The modern mocha is the attempt to mimic the taste of the original mocha coffee out of Yemen. Yes.
So, here in Atlanta, there's a roaster. I think they have one more too. It used to be called Bad Joe from Bronx, and it's called Bad Joe's now.
Yeah.
They have a Mocha Java coffee blend. They're attempting to replicate the original Mocha Java coffee, and it's fantastic.
Well, I will try that. I found a gourmet coffee importer, and I bought just some random coffee from Java and some random coffee from Yemen, and they were pre-ground. I just mixed them myself and brewed some coffee that way. It was coffee. It was nothing special. It wasn't great. It wasn't horrible, but it wasn't brilliant either. So I'm kind of like, what's the big deal?
The Dancing Goat ones is it's a little more on the light roasted side, so you get more like fruity flavors, and I would say outright like what you expect chocolate to taste like.
Gotcha.
More
No, I mean I like their stuff.
Kind of flavor, I guess.
I've got friends of mine who got married at their facility.
That's awesome.
Actually, do you all know John Strangway?
Yeah.
He married them, dressed as Old Man Luke.
I love that.
It was an interesting one.
Strangeway has many stories.
And actually, that one, it was a service I was going to try and add to Blackbird Finery as a groom's valet. The brides have people doing their hair and their makeup, and the bridesmaids are all getting taken care of, and the guys are shoved in a closet somewhere. They're putting their cummerbunds on upside down. They're putting their shirt studs in backwards. They don't know what they're doing. And I did that for them as my wedding gift. And I made sure everybody had their ties tied properly and had all their accoutrement. And it was a lot of fun. I'm glad I did it. It's just, my wife used to run weddings at the church. Make sure I'm doing enough. It's half, okay. Having dealt with some of the brides and the mothers of the brides and the chaos of that, I really didn't want to give up my weekends, particularly for an entire summer, to be doing that. So I will still do it for folks if they want. More than happy to, particularly if it's friends or people I know. But to do one of the wedding shows where people promote their services, the caterers, the florists, all of that stuff, that's $1,000 for your table for just a couple of hours on a Saturday.
Wow.
And I wouldn't make, if I brought stuff to sell as, say, groomsmen's gifts, because I have a ton of people who buy things from me for their husband-to-be, or for groomsmen's, or for whatever. And I'm sure I would sell some, but I would not make $1,000 in one day when people are going to taste cake and look at flowers.
Right.
And then even offering that service, I don't think I would make my money back. Although I could charge a lot. I mean, the wedding racket is a racket, and they charge astronomical prices for things. And someone did say, you could just hire people, train them. You be the manager and scheduler and what have you, and you just have other folks go out and do the on-the-ground stuff. We don't do that. Sit back and let other people tie the ties after I train them properly.
Well,
It's funny, the British used to have a whole system for how that worked.
Yeah. There we go.
No,
Your belly.
training the valet.
Oh yeah, there's
yeah.
still butler schools.
Mhm.
It's amazing. I'm a little, no, I'm not too old, but I've got too much of a life here to be able to just take off 6 months and go to butler school, but I'd love to do that at some point. So, this is the step. There it is, 1 ounce of cream. Trying to get the chocolate a little more incorporated before I start adding water. But there's still some here. Oop. There's still some here.
The drink looks so deceptively like the second one.
Oh, exactly. When I started making the chocolate drinks up against that one. Well, what's funny is this one, unfortunately, the foam starts to disintegrate pretty early. But it did have that nice head of foam on it.
That was ice cream and Coke.
Some nice cold water now. I will say that this one is not going to get a pineapple. They use pineapple in so much. It's more often than not a garnish. There we go.
Canned pineapple was kind of a novelty.
Exactly. And there were a lot of sundaes that included crushed pineapple, whether you thought it would work or not. And your traditional banana split is chocolate sauce, basically crushed strawberries and crushed pineapple. There was one drink that was called the Tommy Atkins. That was the standard name for a British soldier in World War I, shortened to Tommy's, but it was originally Tommy Atkins. And this drink it was pineapple juice, not syrup, and crushed pineapples. And it was actually really good. It's just I don't make it a lot because, I have to buy. Actually, Dole makes those little cups of the crushed pineapple, so I just bought some of those and used those. But one of the companies that provided the crushed fruits was J. Hungerford Smith. And for the longest time, they bought an ad on the cover of the trade magazine called The Soda Fountain. they're still in business today, and they sell stuff to ice cream shops and such. They do have their own root beer syrup. I've not tried it yet because you have to buy like a 2-gallon jug of it. And they don't sell anything smaller than a massive amount. So it's like,
Root
One
beer's
of these
hard though, because sometimes it's a caramel, sometimes it's more of an herb. Like root beer is really subjective. Like,
Oh, yeah.
who brews it? Like root beer is,
Oh, yeah.
on one label does not mean root beer.
exactly. And that's what I think is kind of cool about it, is everybody has their own formulas.
And I'm sure you know this, Jason, that we can thank our relatively modern form of root beer that we enjoy with vanilla ice cream or anything else for that matter. Thanks we enjoy it thanks to Prohibition.
Yes. Your soda fountains became basically temperance saloons, as it were. But a lot of the early late 1800s sodas included alcohol. They would make syrups from claret and sherry and Catawba wine. And I don't make those. Partially
Gives me an
because
idea for something like how.
I'm allergic to alcohol. So I can't make them and test them. There we go.
I'll give it a try sometime for you, Jason.
Yeah. Well, there's a company.
Better.
Oh, yeah.
Nice third.
That's why I was trying to kind of stir it up before I added the water, but I guess I wasn't doing enough of the fine strain. That's better.
Isn't that like, what's it, aquavit, the thing they used the colonists? Because talk about reducing these clarets and stuff makes me think about how they would store alcohol for journeys and things. So it's not the thing, aquavit? Am I crazy?
Aquavit is a style of Icelandic, I think, alcohol.
Okay, so what's the one that like they're keeping barrels for like the pilgrims and stuff? Like on this like long journeys. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, but it was, I mean,
Am I crazy?
I think it was just alcohol. I mean, they
They
didn't.
would
Those
have
before
alcohol
that.
barrels. They would do grogs or logs
Okay.
in long barrels. Mainly there would be a grog was originally just a barrel of water with rum. And they added the rum to the water and citrus in there when they had it, because the water itself would not be safe to drink. And they didn't want their sailors getting this with trash, so they would add the rum to the water to help sterilize and fix the water so it wouldn't kill them. And they would throw in the citrus in there because, scurvy, that kind of thing.
And then ginger for the motion sickness.
That would also help with that.
Yep.
There was a habit of doing ocean barrel aged alcohols. Like Jefferson's bourbon actually makes a Jefferson's Ocean, where they recreate that. They put the bourbon in the barrels, they age it, and they stick it on a boat and send it around the world or whatever on a boat for a while, and then bottle it and sell it. But I'll look into what you were talking about and see if I can figure it out. Now I'm curious.
There's a company called Liquor Quick, and they sell alcohol flavorings like brandy. It's just these little bottles for when a bar runs out of alcohol. You no longer have sherry, you no longer have your house brand, you no longer have the sherry that you bought from your supplier. But you have some neutral spirits, like vodka or something like that. You could add this brandy flavoring to it, and then you have your house brandy until you can get your actual supply. What's interesting is those flavorings are now non-alcoholic. Instead of using alcohol to make the essences, they use glycerin.
That's how Feed Brothers keeps their bitters non-alcoholic.
Exactly. So, I want to start trying to make some of my own syrups using glycerin instead of alcohol. But they actually have instructions with those on how to make basically soda syrups out of their little stuff. Basically, you're just adding it to simple syrup, like you would do any other essence. One of the ones I saw a ton of was a Don't Care syrup. And 99% of those were brandy. Either brandy and some other fruit flavor. One was literally California Best Brandy. 1 ounce, carbonated water. That was it.
I mean, one of my friends, back when I was in the Army, he would, 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 because you still see a lot of rum extract around, which, you know, people use for making non-alcoholic rum cakes and the like. And he would actually add the rum to his vodka. The rum extract to his vodka.
Right. Hey, it works.
I asked him why he just didn't buy rum. He claimed he was allergic to rum, but vodka was okay.
That's hilarious.
Well,
It's the oak.
people, yep. So this last one is English peach, honey, and cream from beyond.
If you get past the best and the best.
And, so the original formula for this was for a nice huge batch. And I'll read that. But it's 1 1/2 pints peach juice, 1 quart strained honey, 1 quart simple syrup, 4 ounces rose water, 1 ounce foam extract. And that would have been a gum foam or a gum arabic or something like that to add a foaming agent to these syrups. That's the one thing these modern syrups are missing, is some sort of foaming agent.
Okay, well, how would they make that? Like with like acid and granite? I mean,
Well, no, you would buy gum arabic. I mean, you were a pharmacist and you could buy the gum arabic as a powder to just add to.
And
So you only add a
Just to
little
give
bit.
it a little bit of structure to the foam rather than to get the bubbles itself.
And,
Right.
and these days, Feed Brothers actually, the Feed Brothers also have a bar foam in a bottle that you can buy it.
I just, when I was at the grocery store, I have not seen this before, but in with the whipped cream and such, Carnation now has a cold foam creamer
I've seen that too.
for your coffee. And they also have them in flavors. And I'm like, everything old is new again, period. The cold foam that they're doing for coffees is exactly the stuff they were doing in the soda fountains with your cream and your carbonated water and all of that. But so that you would just mix all of that together, and then in a 12-ounce glass, you would add 2 ounces of the syrup with 2 ounces of sweet dairy cream. Fill up with almond cream from the draft arm if you have it, and stir rapidly with the mixing spoon. If you have no almond cream on draft, fill the glass with carbonated water instead. So we're going to do 2 versions. We're going to do one with the carbonated water, but I actually found a, Silk has an almond creamer, and that's supposed to be thick and creamy, which is what you would have gotten out of the draft. So we'll see how that works. But first we'll do the normal. So, actually, just to be on the safe side. You can find these peach nectars around. Just finding peach juice is often difficult, but Jumex has some amazing flavors. And the nectars at say Publix were like up to $5 for something a little larger than this.
For those Latin and Asian marketplaces, who really come in handy.
Well, the Mexican grocery store around the corner from where I used to live had these for $1.50. I got this in a strawberry because you can't find strawberry juice anywhere.
Banana and lemonade. Rocks.
Well, that's the thing. You can find strawberry banana things, or peach and mango things, but not just peach.
And not just strawberry.
And unless you're in Hawaii, you just can't find passion orange guava anywhere together.
No. But that's an acquired taste.
Oh God, guava's awesome.
So I may do the same with the honey.
Just more trade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because what I did was, my modern version is 1 ounce of peach juice, 1/2 ounce honey. I don't have any rose syrup with me. I forgot the little bottle I had. But then the cream and then the carbonated water. So,
I love floral syrups, like the lavender, rose.
They are fantastic.
yeah. And
Without-
there's,
without using soapy, because that's always a thing.
Oh
It's
gosh, I
soapy.
think it's called a floral bouquet, but it is literally 1 ounce of whatever floral syrup you want.
elderflower.
Elderflower or
Rose,
lavender, violet, rose, any of that. Just 1 ounce of that, and then an ounce of cream, and you stir that up, and then you add the carbonated water. And it makes basically a rose cream soda, which is, no matter what flavor I've tried, they've all been great. So, 2 ounces of cream.
I did a lavender cream mocktail a few times back. That was pretty good.
That's my jam right now. Like, I might get to everything.
You ever had lavender honey?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's, but I'll do like Bambus berries, pink yogurt, lavender syrup. Oh, here we go.
This is just a wildflower honey, but it's from a Georgian apiary, I guess, Blue Ridge. And where are they?
Oh, they're up.
Lakemont, Georgia. I like using local honeys whenever possible, because when you think about it, that's what your local small town drugstore would have had their hands on, would be from the guy down the street.
Yeah, you know Jeffrey, he's got these.
I had a friend of mine who was at a general store once, and these girls came in, like, y'all got that low-cal honey? I said, I want this low-cal honey y'all got. So it's low-cal honey. Yeah, no, it was the funniest thing. Is local honey.
The education system in this country needs to be improved.
This is the 70s.
It's always needed to be improved.
Yeah. This home.
Did y'all ever hear about the red honey they were finding in New Jersey?
Yeah, the M&Ms, right? Or
No.
Skittles or something?
No, wasn't
It
that
was-
a brand?
Cheerwine?
Yes. It was a brand.
Tell me.
The bees were snacking on the runoff from the maraschino cherry factory because that was sweet and it was showing up in their honey. And I didn't really, that one I used. This one I've not used. Just this one also needs a stir because the honey's so thick. But that's what you want in honey. You want thin, runny honey.
How do you like to fix your crystallized honey?
That I just eat.
My mom was just a jar of the jar of the cat boiling water.
My labels count.
Started off with a piece of.
Take a little bowl and start making.
I'll use it again
Piece
for
of painter's tape.
the next attempt.
Screw out your honey, put a little microscope.
Let's see if this actually pours.
Or just add it to water and add make some and make honey syrup.
I asked you to that.
Oh yeah, that's good. I meant to mention, one of the reasons why I'm using this and not a peach syrup is the peach syrups are way too sweet. I mean, we tried it once and it was like, it was good, but you could only drink like that much of it.
Can you just use like a light syrup from a can of canned peaches?
You could,
Is that why?
you could. I'd say last resort, but you can certainly do that.
Okay.
So that's the English peach honey and cream with carbonated water. Now I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to use the creamer and see how that works. It's probably not going to have the same foaming action because the peach and honey don't really cause much foam. How are we on time?
It is quarter after 5.
Quarter after 5? So we've got until 5:30. So I should be wrapping up now. Because it's a 90-minute slot. So actually, while I'm making this, if y'all want to come up and try some of these,
Don't ask me.
let me, let me put these smaller cups, and then you can always grab the small ones over there.
All right, just move on.
Who moved my hand?
Yeah.
Great pineapple.
It's delicious. You like pineapple? I'm so sorry.
Let me know what people think.
Okay. I can have to guess which one Oh, is it the, or is it the?
Now, one thing,
That might smell it.
I was talking about maybe offering the service of being a groom's valet. One thing I am willing to do is dispense sodas at private parties. If y'all want somebody to come in and do stuff like this at a party, more than glad to talk to you about that. I will have, you'll get to pick from a list of possible sodas. And then we will work together to come up with a menu for your party. And then you'll buy the supplies, and I'll be there and make drinks for folks.
Just this one's done. Yeah, that one's done.
Yeah, that's the original, or that's the carbonated pecan.
Just a second.
English peach honey.
Oh, honey.
There's no H in the name.